Hello, and a very warm welcome to this latest episode of Venena Mundi. In the last two episodes of How Poisons Work, we looked at the different ways that harmful substances can enter the body, including the digestive system. If the substance has the right physical form and solubility to pass through the protective wall of the stomach or intestines, it will be absorbed, either by simple diffusion or perhaps by one of the other absorption mechanisms. It now passes through the walls of the plentiful capillary vessels lining your intestines and is taken up by the passing blood. But what happens to it next? Why is the liver the second largest organ in the body? And why does the liver sometimes make things worse? To find out, please continue watching this episode of Venena Mundi. The immediate destination for all substances absorbed in the digestive system, whether food or anything else, is the liver. The tiny capillary vessels picking up blood from the stomach and intestines join up to form larger veins, which eventually combine to become the hepatic portal vein. This collects blood from the entire digestive system and takes it to the liver. Once it gets there, the liver's main job is to process and transform nutrients into various other useful molecules. This role makes the liver the body's main chemical factory, and as such it is the most metabolically active organ in the whole human body. It has been estimated that the liver performs at least 500 different tasks. Because of this, and because it stores some of the substances it produces, it's the second largest organ in the human body after skin. In the average adult, it weighs about 2.5 to 3 kilograms. Before we look at what the liver does to poisons, let's briefly look at some of the other vital functions this remarkable organ performs, starting with the processing of nutrients. When these arrive from the digestive system, they are either broken down further into simpler compounds, or they are combined to form new molecules that the body needs, including proteins, carbohydrates, fats, hormones, or clotting factors, which are either stored in the liver or transported out to where they are needed. Another equally important role of the liver is to regulate energy. It does so by processing the sugar glucose. Eating a meal, especially a sugary one, can produce so much sugar that it could easily overwhelm the body. The role of the liver is therefore to quickly mop up this excess glucose and convert it into a large polymer called glycogen, which it then safely stores. Later, when the blood concentration of glucose in the blood starts to fall, the liver activates processes to break down the glycogen and releases the resulting glucose slowly back into the blood for transport to other tissues. This process is largely under the control of the hormone called insulin, and when it goes wrong, the individual suffers from a condition called diabetes. A third important role of the liver is to recycle old blood cells. It does so by breaking down the hemoglobin into other molecules, first into biliverdin and then into bilirubin, which is then made into bile. This thick green liquid is secreted into and stored in the gallbladder and then delivered into the small intestine after a meal when it's needed. Bile also contains detergents, and together, the role of these compounds is to disperse the fats in our food to help them be absorbed more readily in the intestines. Another of the liver's key functions, but this time one related to digestion, is to remove ammonia from the blood and convert it into urea, which then leaves the body in urine produced by the kidneys. The ammonia is produced by the metabolism of various cells in the body and is highly toxic, and would therefore damage many of the body's organs. So by doing this, the liver gets rid of harmful ammonia, and that makes sure the body remains unharmed. Okay, what about those molecules which arrive at the liver from the digestive system, but which are not normal food molecules? Poisons and other harmful substances both fall into this category. What does the liver do to these? As it turns out, a number of highly important things that keep you alive. The most important of these is to try and convert these molecules into less toxic ones. One of the ways the liver does this is by using special enzymes and oxygen. The process is somewhat like burning, and because it uses oxygen, it's called oxidation. Specifically, in relation to what the liver does, in older textbooks, this process is scientifically called phase 1 detoxification. In more modern use, this term has been transformed to detoxification. It doesn't really matter, and whichever one you use is up to you. Because I like tradition, I will continue to use detoxification. Because the enzymes involved in phase 1 are so important, they will get a separate episode of their own later in this playlist. Meanwhile, the main objective of the liver and these enzymes is to make products which are more soluble in water than the original toxic precursors. Their increased solubility means that more of these processed molecules can thus dissolve in blood, which is then transported to the kidneys, where they are filtered out and disposed of in urine, very much like the ammonia we talked about earlier. Another way that the liver handles dangerous compounds is by combining them with other molecules already present in the body or made specifically by the liver for this purpose. These special molecules include certain amino acids and peptides, particularly those containing sulfur like cysteine and glutathione. Once again, enzymes are used to assist these chemical reactions, but these are different to those taking part in stage 1 detoxification. Because two or more molecules are combined together during this activity, this process is called conjugation, or more scientifically, phase 2 detoxification. This particular route is used for toxic molecules that are difficult to alter through oxidation. Again, the purpose is to make an end product which is more soluble than the original. Elimination can then once again happen through the kidneys, or often in this case by being excreted in the bile. This specific group of enzymes and processes will also be looked at in a dedicated episode later in this playlist. Unfortunately, the second stage can be relatively easily disrupted, for example by dietary deficiency, illness, some medicines, alcohol usage, and a low protein intake. All are key factors. Thus, for the second phase to work effectively, the liver must be in good shape. If it is damaged in any way, this pathway may not operate well, and any poisons will remain unaltered. That's why some people who drink large amounts of alcohol more easily succumb to certain poisons. Of course, when the liver is working well, both detoxification routes can be combined together to often greater effect than just one route alone. So first the toxin is oxidized, and then the resulting product is combined with a conjugation molecule in the second stage. The resulting conjugate, hopefully more soluble than either the original toxin oxidation product, is then excreted through the kidneys or through bile. Now, unfortunately, whilst phase 1 is an important route for detoxification, it also poses risks. That's because occasionally the oxidation product is more dangerous than the original substance being detoxified. Benzene, for example, a common organic solvent present in petrol and cigarettes, is a known carcinogen. In other words, it causes cancer. By itself, however, benzene is not all that harmful. It is pretty unreactive. However, phase 1 enzymes can oxidize it to produce benzene quinones, which are highly carcinogenic. So as we can see, the result of detoxification can sometimes be more dangerous than the original toxin itself. In other instances, the toxic substance may actually act on the liver itself. Prolonged exposure to alcohol is a good example, so stay off the booze. Fortunately though, the liver is very resilient. Although it may become damaged as a result of exposure to toxins or disease, it is possible for it to work effectively, even when only about 1/3 of it remains. That's because the liver has the benefit of being made from mostly identical cells when compared to other organs in the body. In other words, it is homogeneous. And consequently, there is a lot of redundancy in the organ, and thus a lot of spare cells are available to take over the function of the damaged ones. Moreover, the liver can also quite rapidly regenerate by regrowing damaged cells if the source of the damage is removed. So over a period of time, even the most damaged liver can more or less recover. Overall then, it's a genuinely magnificent organ. It can not only repair itself and take care of a variety of processes to keep you alive, but it can also protect you from many hazardous and toxic chemicals. These include many common substances we are exposed to every day in our food, like caffeine in tea, theobromine in chocolate, capsaicin in chilies, and the vast majority of drugs we take to treat various medical conditions. Even in high doses, the liver just gets on with the job of disposing of these efficiently and without fuss. Of course, in extreme cases, it may become overwhelmed by the amount, or may not be equipped to deal with them, in which case these harmful substances will exert their full toxic effect. And also, some routes of poisons into the body bypass the liver altogether. For example, when absorbed through the skin or lungs, most chemicals bypass the liver and go directly to the organs which they damage. Right, that's the end of this episode of Venena Mundi. Today we've seen how the liver plays a critical part in reducing the toxicity of hazardous compounds that enter the body through the digestive system. However, not all such substances do, and additional routes of entry include the lungs and to a lesser extent the skin. Furthermore, the liver is not always successful in reducing the toxicity of poisons and can even occasionally make things worse. In the next episode, we'll look at what happens in both these scenarios. Meanwhile, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and use the comments below to say what you think or what you'd like to see in the future. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe so that I don't get lonely, and please click on the notifications bell to make sure you don't miss the next episode. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you next time.